Should we start? So, very good morning to one and all. I said good morning. Good morning. Okay. So, very warm welcome to this today's session. Today we are going to see Schedule 1 transactions, which means the transactions which will be treated as supply, even though there is no consideration involved. It is an exception to the main parameters which are required to constitute something as a supply, that is consideration. Before we start, would like to show you the notes. First part is printed and ready for distribution. So notes would be colorful notes with lot of examples and pictures and graphs. What you are looking at on the screen is a part of notes only, so that everything that we studied till now will be there in the book. So this is part 1. Similarly, there will be another part 2, as I explained in the first session. Okay. So let's start. So there are 4 transactions wherein even if there is no consideration, it will be still treated as supply. The transactions are transaction number 1, permanent transfer or disposal of business asset. Second is supply between related persons or distinct persons. Third is transactions between principal and agent. And fourth is importation of services. This is different from your 7.1 clause B. That was importation of services, whether or not in the course or furtherance of business. This is without consideration. So there is a difference. We have a chart also. Later on we'll go to that chart wherein we'll decide where importation of services is covered by this particular schedule 1 entry or 7.1B entry, and how to distinguish between two importation of services. Okay. Why there is a special consideration to this importation of services only, not goods? Any thoughts? We will go to that service at a later stage, but still just as a part of discussion. Perfect. Very correct answer. For monitoring the transactions which are pertaining to import of goods, there are a lot of procedural requirements which are required to be fulfilled. For example, there are custom authorities, there are custom areas through which only goods move. But for services, it is very simple. Nowadays, I can go online and take any services from any corner of the world. So monitoring that import of services is very much difficult, and there are no specified authorities who govern the import or export of services, and that is the reason the specific set of transactions which are there, which govern the import of services area. Okay. So to bring import of services in parity with import of goods, there are special considerations which are given. Consideration means not the consideration of supply wala consideration, means due importance is given to the importation of services. Understood? So let's start with the first point. Permanent transfer or disposal of business asset. What do we mean by business asset? Assets of business, something which is owned by the business, capitalized in the books of accounts. Do you understand the difference between capital and revenue? What is that? How do you decide whether something is of capital nature or a revenue nature? Basic concepts हुआ है ना direct tax में, right? ये explain किया होगा. So what is the difference? How do you recognize that? Chalo, from GST perspective, it is very simple. Something that is capitalized in the books of accounts. You look at the balance sheet, fixed asset side, something that is capitalized there, that becomes your business asset. From GST perspective, very simple. Okay. So in order to qualify as supply under this paragraph, means the entry where even without consideration, this disposal or transfer of business asset will become supply. there are certain conditions which are required to be satisfied. What are these conditions? Means that only if these three conditions which are displayed on the screen are satisfied, then only that particular transaction related to transfer or disposal we have discussed, transfer we have discussed meanings. So those transactions will be treated as supply under GST, but there is still no consideration. Even in that case also it will be considered. So first condition is that there must be disposal or transfer of business asset. I will give you one example. I am a partner in a partnership firm. So there is one asset, let's say furniture. Okay, furniture is owned by that partnership firm, and I transfer that furniture to some of my relative, and I tell my relative that don't pay anything to me. Is it not a transfer of business asset? Correct? Transfer or disposal must be permanent, means without a condition attached to take it back. Permanent, you understand? There is no intention to take it back. That is permanent transfer. ITC must have been availed on such business assets. Now what does that mean? Can anyone help me with this? What is ITC? Input tax credit. So we have discussed this value addition taxation concept. Okay, so with reference to that concept, can anyone tell me the meaning of this particular condition, that ITC must have been availed on such business assets? सेल व्हायला पाहिजे अशी कंडिशन आहे ती की जेव्हा परचेस केला होता तेव्हा त्याच्यावरचा टॅक्स हा इनपुट टॅक्स क्रेडिट म्हणून घेतलेला होता, अशी कंडिशन आहे. व्हॉट डू यू थिंक? सी, we'll take one simple example to understand what they are trying to say here. Okay, you know that example. Which example? 100, 10, 110. This is basic, this is GST, and this is gross total. Barabar? This seller is selling those goods into the market, collecting 10 rupees from the buyer. Now these 10 rupees are required to be paid to whom? Seller has to pay the recovered 10 rupees to the government. Itna to sabko samajhta hai, right? We have discussed. Now this seller is let's assume he is a manufacturer and he is selling it. Okay, so for manufacturing he has procured certain things from various sellers, right? So it may be capital goods, it may be inputs, it may be input services. Do you understand the meanings of these three terms? Means I set up a plant and machinery. For that I purchase a machinery. So that becomes capital goods, because I will capitalize the plant and machinery in my books of accounts. Clear to you? Then I purchase certain raw materials. That becomes my inputs for selling these goods. Correct? And then I take some input services. I hire a consultant, I hire an advocate, I hire a chartered accountant, I hire some consultants of technical nature, some engineers to guide me to run my business, to have a good production, etc. So I have input services also. Now each of these activities, whenever I am paying them, I will be paying them along with GST, because they will also charge me GST similar to what I am charging to my customers. Clear? So let's say here there is a GST which is paid on purchase of capital goods. Here there is GST which is paid on purchase of inputs, and here there is GST which is paid on input services. So when I say that these 10 rupees are required to be transmitted to the government treasury, is it that I have to transmit 10 rupees or 10 rupees less the input tax credit, means the tax benefit which is pertaining to the previous payments, which is this payment, this payment, and this payment? What do you think? after reduction of all the GST that I have paid on my capital goods, inputs and input services, right? So these are the components of tax which I have paid, which are going to my bucket of ITC, and that bucket I will utilize to pay these liabilities of 10 rupees. Clear with this concept? We have seen this quite a few times by now, so you must be aware. Only thing is that we had not considered any sort of a bifurcation. This bifurcation, that is capital goods, inputs and input services. This is for the first time we are discussing it. Until this point in time, we were just taking a technical example of purchases and sales. So purchases of inputs only we had considered. This much only we had considered. But in a real life scenario, there are capital goods also, there are services also, there are inputs also, there are various other things also. So whatever tax I'm paying on my procurements as a seller, whatever taxes I'm collecting, I will net them off and only balance payment I will make to the government. That is how it works, right? So if you have understood this, we will again go back to our entry. If you are not understood, let me know right now only. I will explain it again. Has any one of you not understood this? Yes? परत करू एकदा. देखिए, whenever there is a seller and that seller wants to sell the goods, he will collect the GST on the price that he is charging to his customers. So ये क्या करेगा seller? 10 रुपए GST कलेक्ट करेगा फ्रॉम हिज बायर. ओके, और वो GST जो 10 रुपया कलेक्ट किया हुआ है ऑन द सेल्स, किसको देना है? उसको गवर्नमेंट को देना है. बट वो पूरा का पूरा 10 रुपए देगा या 10 रुपए में से कुछ डिडक्शंस करेगा एंड देन पे टू द गवर्नमेंट. डिडक्शंस करेगा, राइट? विच सॉर्ट ऑफ डिडक्शंस करेगा? तो जो भी उसने प्रोक्योर किया है फ्रॉम हिज सप्लायर्स, जो इन द नेचर ऑफ इनपुट्स हो सकते हैं, कैपिटल गुड्स हो सकते हैं एंड सर्विसेज हो सकती है. तो सर्विसेज पे जो पेमेंट किया है जीएसटी का, वो दैट इज अवेलेबल एज ए इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट. कैपिटल गुड्स जो परचेस किए हैं, जैसे कि मशीनरी हो, प्लांट हो, या तो फिर और कुछ फर्नीचर हो, फिक्सचर्स हो, राइट? सो व्हीकल्स हो, फोकलिफ्ट हो, वॉट एवर इट इज, क्रेन हो, तो जो भी जीएसटी उसके परचेस पे किया है, दैट विल बी अगेन अवेलेबल एज ए जीएसटी. एंड इनपुट सर्विसेज हो सकती है. कौन सी सर्विसेज हो सकती है? देर आर वेरियस सर्विसेज टेकन फ्रॉम इंजीनियर्स, प्रोफेशनल्स, देन जो भी लेबर कॉन्ट्रैक्टर की सर्विसेज है. सो ये सब सर्विसेज पे जो जीएसटी वो पे कर रहा है सेलर टू द रिस्पेक्टिव वेंडर्स, वो उसको अवेलेबल होगा एज अ इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट. So that input tax credit he will reduce from this liability and pay the net payment to the government. Now clear? Any doubts? Everyone is clear with this example? Now let's go back to our entry, which says that to qualify a transaction as supply, okay, even without consideration, that is entry number 1, permanent transfer or disposal of business assets, there are 3 conditions effectively which are required to be satisfied. Which are these 3 conditions? First condition, there must be disposal or transfer. I give you one example. Furniture का दिया मैंने कि there is a partnership firm in which I am a partner and there is a furniture which is owned by that partnership firm. So I transfer it to one of my relative without making any payment, without receiving any payment. Transfer or disposal must be permanent. Means without an intention to receive it back. आज दे दिया, कल जाके मांग रहा हूं मैं. No, it is a permanent disposal, transfer. And this is the condition, third condition, for which we discuss that example again. ITC must have been availed on such business assets. Means coming back to our example, this is the portion which we are talking about. So I had availed GST benefit on the capital goods or that asset, business asset, whenever I procured them. Clear now? Whenever, जब भी मैंने वो परचेस किया था प्लांट एंड मशीनरी, उस पे मैंने टैक्स भरा था और उसका बेनिफिट एज अ इनपुट टैक्स क्रेडिट क्लेम करा था. क्लियर? So why do you think this entry is there? If you try to understand the why, then it will be easier for you to remember that particular entry. So why do you think this entry is there? There may be some tax fraud or tax evasion. How? Let's understand. Let's see that I want to install one air condition in my house. Okay. So what I do, if I go to purchase the air condition, it is 50,000 rupees. Okay, in the market. And it is inclusive of GST. So maybe GST, for the ease of understanding, let's assume that the GST component in that 50,000 is rupees 10,000. Let's assume, it may not be 10,000, but let's assume for this example it is 10,000. So मैंने ऐसे सोचा कि I have a business, I have my registration under GST. So what I will do, I will purchase it in the name of the business, so that मेरा cost कितना होगा? Only 40,000. 10,000 I am eligible to claim as a input tax credit, right? Understood? So I purchase it in the business's name. Okay. Then 10,000 rupees I claim as input tax credit. To that extent I pay lesser tax because I am availing the benefit of input tax credit, and my cost is 40,000. After few days I transfer it to my own self and I install the AC in the house, right? So this is a transaction where there is a transfer of the business asset without an intention to get it back, and input tax credit has been claimed in the books of accounts. So I have already claimed the benefit of input tax in the books. So now if tomorrow tax authorities visit the premises and they do not find the air condition which is there, for which I have claimed the input tax credit, they will say that you have not used that particular AC for your business purpose, so we will treat it as a transaction. So you say, no, I took it to my house. So they will treat that as a transfer without consideration and tax on it. Clear? Clear with the intention behind bringing this particular entry. Now, any doubts in your mind? Because there should be one doubt. Think about this AC example only and tell me. I will give you 1 minute to think on this. Come up with inter-level queries, not foundation level queries. I will explain you the doubt in my mind, okay? Let's assume that everything of this sort happens and authorities decide to tax that particular transfer. Now, let's assume the rate of air condition is 28%. How much tax do I need to pay on that transfer? Because anyway, I have not paid any consideration. So what is the value? What is the value on which the tax will be paid? Now you understood my query. Okay. Even if that transfer is treated as supply, on what value the tax will be levied? Because there is no consideration which is paid by myself to the business. Which transaction I am talking about, you understood now? The second leg of the transaction, wherein I have transferred the business asset to my own self. I have taken the AC to my home. That authorities are saying that that transaction is chargeable under this category because there is a transfer of business asset, permanent transfer, and of which I had already claimed input tax credit. Now I say, okay, I agree with you. Tell me what amount I should pay the tax, because I have not received any consideration. So 28% into 0 will be 0. I know this basic maths. So I will not pay any tax. So what is the purpose of bringing this provision? Now you got my query. Now you understood my doubt. Now whether that doubt is in your mind also, or still you don't recognize that doubt, it is there. So for that, there is section 15, valuation. Okay. So valuation talks about on what value the supply should be considered, because I told you about Govind sir and Ganga sir and Supreme Court decision. 4 components are very important: taxable event, tax rate, tax value, and taxable person. If those are not defined in the law, levy fails, means there cannot be tax levy. So one of the important aspect is valuation. So valuation talks about how to value a transaction. So usually it is fair market value or the transaction value at which the transactions are happening. If that is missing somewhere, it is a fair market value. So if you read this section, it has a reference to rules. What are rules? What is act? What are rules? Rules talks about implementation of the provisions of the law act. So rules, CGST rules are there, 2017. In that 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, these rules talk about how to value this sort of transactions. Fortunately, this thing is not there for your inter syllabus. You will study that in final. Only this much is there for your inter syllabus. Everybody is happy. Chalo, utna to padna nahi padega. But let me tell you, for such kind of transfers without consideration between related persons, we'll see what are related persons, there is a valuation rule which says it has to be considered at fair market value. So fair market value on the date of that transfer from business to personal. Clear? Now another example, a friend of mine wishes to buy a laptop. Okay, a friend of mine wishes to buy a laptop. The laptop price is, let's say, again 50,000 for the ease of understanding. So I tell him, don't buy because you are not a registered person. I'm registered under GST. So let me take the benefit of input tax credit. So I buy the laptop in my own name. So 50,000 is the total amount paid, but out of that 10,000 I will get as input tax credit. So my cost is only 40,000. And then I tell my friend that take this laptop and use it. And you pay me 50,000 in cash. So I will not book it in the books of accounts. Okay. This is the way I have taken the benefit of input tax credit as well. I have done the transfer also. Now this transaction will get covered in the first entry of your schedule 1 because this is transfer of business asset. Isn't it? Permanent transfer. Isn't it? And third condition, input tax credit has been claimed at the time of purchase. So have you understood the first entry now? To avoid that tax evasion, to avoid that tax fraud or misappropriation of the GST input tax credit, they have brought this provision. So tomorrow, if they find out, how they will find out? They have lot of statistics with them through which they can simulate things and get the data. This may be a very small transaction, but where there is a quantum involved, materiality is there, they will definitely try to trace such kind of transactions. So authorities are nowadays overloaded with the datas. So they have specialized branches like anti-evasion cell, DGGI. What is DGGI? Directorate of GST Intelligence. So these people are doing a lot of statistical assessments, analysis, and trying to find out the rackets. Have you read the news? 5,000 crore rupees racket is busted, etc. Fake invoicing, circular trading, etc. So all these activities are based on this statistical assessment done by these authorities. So they have specified, and they have good IT cell, which day in, day out mining with the data thing and trying to get out the exceptions like this. So if they find out tomorrow, what I want to say is that if they find out about this laptop thing, then they will consider the second leg of the transaction as a supply, even though if it is without consideration, because cash is not shown anywhere. So they will think that there is no consideration and they will try to bring this under the scope of supply. So have you understood the first entry now? Any doubts? So let's see one example. Dhruva gives old laptops being used in his business to his friend free of cost. It is a supply even though there is no consideration because all three conditions are satisfied. We have just seen this example. Transfer of business asset from holding to subsidiary company for nil consideration. So they are related entities. So they will say that no, we will not charge anything. We will settle it in the books of accounts at the time of consolidation, etc. But still it is a supply even though it is without consideration because all the three conditions are satisfied. So asset was permanently transferred to the subsidiary company, on which at some point in time input tax credit was claimed, means the benefit of taxes was claimed, and there is a disposal or transfer of the asset. A dealer of air conditioners permanently transfers motor vehicle free of cost. ITC on the same motor vehicle is blocked. Should I read it again? A dealer of air conditioners permanently transfers the motor vehicle free of cost. ITC on the said motor vehicle is blocked. Now ये block credit क्या है? What is this blocked credit? So when we'll go to input tax credit chapter, we will study in detail everything about credit, input tax credit. But now to understand this particular point, I will just give a brief understanding about how input tax credit works. So when we say that these three credits on capital goods, on inputs and input services, we are eligible to claim the benefit of taxes paid on procurement of inputs, input services and capital goods. When we say that, that is when certain conditions given in the law are satisfied. So it is conditional benefit. So law says, yes, there is a seamless flow of credit, but to claim the credit, for example, we had seen the basic example of input tax, the value addition taxation, 100, 10, 100, and then 200, 20. So 20 minus 10, we used to pay only 10 rupees, right? But to claim that benefit of 10 of the earlier chain, there are a set of conditions which are required to be satisfied in the law. Okay. So these conditions are given under section 16 of the CGST Act. Read with some rules like rule 36(4), etc. Now they say that if you qualify through these conditions to claim or avail is the right term, something as ITC, input tax credit, still there will be list of transactions given under section 17 subsection 5, which you will never get as input tax credit. Irrespective of anything, even though you satisfy all the conditions, on certain activities, you will never get the input tax credit. Which are these entries? We'll study when we'll go to input tax credit. Just to name a few. Vehicle below 13-seater capacity. So cars that we see. So whatever taxes we paid on cars is not available to be claimed as input tax credit. Second, any expenses related to clubs. They say that if you incur any expenses on club, etc., you will not get the tax benefit on that club expenses. Then something like construction of immovable property. So if you construct a building and you pay tax on cement, steel, or the contractor's charges, you will not get the input tax credit benefit of that. Okay. Then various other expenses are there. For example, food bills. Even all these expenses are business related expenses. Still you will not get the credit. Means tomorrow, if 28th February is the last date to file the GST annual returns and audits. So let's say my office does excellent task and finishes all the audits before time. So we decide to go for dinner party, and bill comes with GST. So isn't the bill in the course or furtherance of my business? Yes, because my employees are there. We all as a team are going for team dinner. So shouldn't I get the credit? Yes, I should. But the GST Act says, irrespective of anything, you will not get any of these input tax credits. No means no. So in this example, a dealer of air conditioner permanently transfers the motor vehicle free of cost. ITC on the same motor vehicle is blocked. Means whenever he bought the vehicle, whatever taxes that he had paid on that vehicle were not available as input tax credit. Those were blocked. Clear? Now you tell me whether this is a supply. Have you understood this entire concept of block credit? Clear with this? So now you tell me whether this is a supply or not. The answer is no, because are all the three conditions satisfied is my question to you. The third condition, what is that third condition? ITC must have been availed on such business assets. Was ITC availed? No, because it is blocked. So what they must have done at that point in time? Okay. What accounting they must have done at that point in time? That is the easier question. What accounting? Chalo, ठीक है. In case of these inputs, what may be the accounting that they have done? Now purchases की तो entry बोलो. अरे GST है ना बीच में. बराबर, right? So purchases, debit, CGST, SGST, whatever GST, debit to vendor or cash or bank, as the case may be. So I say bank. So this I am availing as ITC as a benefit because it was available to me. Now in case of cars, when it was a block credit, what accounting entry I would be doing? So this is 100, this is 10, this is 110. Let's assume the car is 1 lakh. GST on that is 28,000. So total is 1,28,000. Okay. What entry would you be doing in the books of accounts? Am I asking very difficult question? Very simple accounting entry I am asking. 11th standard, first accounting lecture, or maybe 6th, 7th accounting lecture. Car or vehicle account debit, amount 1,28,000 to whatever bank or whatever, 128. So this 128 means what I'm doing effectively is I'm adding the GST component that I'm paying for the car, I'm adding it to the cost of the car, right? Means I have not availed it as a benefit. It is not going to the ITC ledgers, correct? So what I'm doing is effectively I'm claiming depreciation benefit on that 28,000. So I'm getting additional benefit. Had it been a case that the credit would have been available, then whether I would have been in a position to claim the input tax, claim the depreciation benefit on that 28,000? The answer is no, because I am using that 28,000 to pay off my liability. So here the transaction will not constitute as a supply because the condition that ITC must have been availed at the time of procurement of that particular asset which is transferred without consideration is not satisfied in this particular case. Any doubts? The entry is finished, I think. There are few, no, the entry is over. Yes. Means, go to that entry. Yes. No, for example, if I buy a machinery, okay. So machinery, same amounts, 1 lakh rupees, 28,000 and 1,28,000. In this case, machinery account debit, how much? How much? 1 lakh. CGST, SGST, debit 28,000 and to bank 128. Why CGST? Because I am claiming this as input tax credit. I will offset this 28,000 with my liability that I will be paying on my sales. Here, why I am adding it to the cost? Because that credit is not eligible for me. Have you understood the difference between the two transactions? Very very simple. In simple language I will try to explain you. जब मैं कार परचेस कर रहा हूं, क्रेडिट मुझे अवेलेबल नहीं है, सो एम आई रिक्वायर्ड टू टेक दैट जीएसटी टू माई जीएसटी लेजर्स? द आंसर इज नो, बिकॉज एनीवे let's say that I do that entry here. So I book car as 1 lakh, GST as 28,000, I take it to GST ledger. Now in the GST ledger there would be liabilities on my sales. This 28,000 is coming to my debit along with other eligible credits. But can I utilize this 28,000? No. So let's say that entire other credit is utilized with the liabilities. So there are no liabilities, no other credits, only 28,000 is lying in the books of accounts, in the GST ledger. Now at the year end, when the chartered accountant comes to finalize your books, what he will say? ये क्यों पड़ा हुआ है बुक्स में, CGST के लेजर में क्यों पड़ा हुआ है 28,000? So you say no, that is not eligible credit. If it is not eligible, why it is lying in the assets? Write it off to the books of accounts, write it off to the P&L account. So what your entry you will pass? Debit balance is written off account debit to CGST, means you are bringing it back to the profit and loss account. Instead what we have done, we have capitalized it along with the asset and we are charging depreciation, means again we are bringing it back to the profit and loss account. Have you understood this? Got the difference? थोड़ा accounting भी सीख लिया हमने इसमें, isn't it? Any doubts? Still I am asking you. If any doubts, let me know right now. Are you satisfied with the answer? Any other queries? Clear? Entry 1 clear आहे? काही doubts आहेत त्याच्यामध्ये? Tell me frankly. Clear? Okay? Clear to everyone? Okay. So let's go to the next entry. Supply between related persons or distinct persons. So the entry says that supply of goods or services or both between related persons or between distinct persons as specified in section 25. अरे ये section 25 किधर से आ गया अभी? Registration. सर वो तो topic 7 है, अभी क्यों? See, the provisions related to registration under GST are covered from section 22 to section 25 of CGST Act 2017. But we need to understand few references related to this entry. So we need to understand what is distinct person, what are related persons. Related person कहाँ पे define किया हुआ है? Not in section 2. It is defined in the explanation to section 15. सर अभी सेक्शन 15 कहां से आया? सेक्शन 15 इज valuation. So section 15 talks about valuation, which says the value of a transaction is the value at which the transaction has been entered only if it is not between related persons, and hence they have defined related person there. Now you got the logic? Clear? So that is why we are referring to section 15 and 25, because registration, we will see the concept of registration in a bit, but in that we need to understand what are distinct person, because GST make fancy concept hai, which I will explain you. So supply of goods or services or both between related persons or between distinct persons as specified in section 25 will qualify as supply provided it is made in the course or furtherance of business. And there is a proviso also, which we'll go to in a bit's time. So first of all, you try to understand that if there are related persons or distinct persons, means what we will see, उनमें कुछ अगर transaction हो रहा है and that transaction is entered without consideration, then it will be still treated as supply under GST. Clear? Okay. Now it is very pertinent to understand what are related persons and what are distinct persons. Okay. So first we'll see what are related persons. This is the list of related persons under GST. It is given under explanation to section 15, which is valuation. Okay, so persons including legal persons are deemed as related persons if it is covered by any of these entries. Persons includes legal person means कंपनी भी कवर होगा, एलएलपी भी होगी, लोकल बॉडीज भी, सॉरी एसोसिएशन ऑफ पर्सन्स भी होगा. ओके, सो ऑल दोज फॉर्म्स ऑफ पर्सन्स which we can think of all are covered here if एक such persons are officers or directors of one another's business. मतलब क्या है? ए है मिस्टर ए, he owns ABC Private Limited, means he is a 90% shareholder, his maybe son or wife maybe 10% or is 50-50, he and his wife. And there is P, Mr. P, who owns PQR Private Limited. Okay, so what the entry says is that such persons are officers or directors of one another's business. So this ABC Private Limited takes P as director, and this PQR Limited, this takes A as director. Then ABC and PQR are related persons. Okay, why? Because there is a possibility of manipulation. They will purchase, sell goods, do a lot of transfers, but they will keep price, they may keep price zero. So they want to catch such transactions and tax it at a actual valuation. So what they say, even if such kind of related persons are there and transactions are happening between them, which is without consideration, it will be still treated as supply. See why these all transactions are there in the schedule 1 is because one may always say that ABC sold goods to PQR but has not charged any consideration. So no supply, we will not pay tax. No. A is director in PQR and P is director in ABC. So ABC and PQR are related persons and hence transaction without consideration between ABC and PQR will still be treated as supply. Okay. Then such persons are legally recognized partners. Anything difficult to understand in this? There is ABC LLP or ABC partnership firm wherein A, B, C are partners. Transaction between A, B, C are transaction between related persons. Simple. Then such persons are employer and employee. सर आपने तो बोला था शेड्यूल 3 में ट्रांजैक्शंस इनको नाइदर ट्रीटेड एज सप्लाई ऑफ गुड्स नॉर ट्रीटेड एज सप्लाई ऑफ सर्विसेज बिटवीन एम्प्लॉयर एंड एम्प्लॉय. यस, वो भी है, बट ये भी है. मतलब क्या? ये जीएसटी बहुत कंफ्यूजिंग है, राइट? एम्प्लॉयर, एम्प्लॉई, services given by employee to employer under the contract of employment. मतलब क्या? service contract. Okay, so whatever services given under the contract of employment, under the engagement of employment, under the scope which is defined in the employment agreement, those are covered by schedule 3. Means neither to be treated as supply of goods nor to be treated as supply of services. So anything other than that means any service which is given by employee to employer not in the course of the employment contract, or any services given by employer to employee anyhow is a transaction between related persons, even though if it is without consideration it will be treated as supply. Clear? Sir, what can be the service which is given by employee to employer without under a contract of service or employment? Is it possible? Do you understand what is a notice period? Notice period, the period that the employee has to serve after resignation. Okay, so the employer says, okay, today you have resigned, but you have 2 months notice period. So serve notice period and then do the full and final and then go to home or to the new job, right? So those 2 months, are those covered under the employment contract? No, because he has technically not the employee from that day of resignation. So those are the services provided by employee to employer, but not under the contract of employment, which will be treated as supply. Clear? So if that value exceeds the threshold limit, employee also will have to get registered under GST, charge GST on the salary or the amount that he will be receiving for those 2 months of notice period. Okay. Similarly, whatever service employer gives to employee, that will be considered as transactions without consideration, but still a supply. So clear with this? Related persons, third entry, third or fourth? Third entry, clear? Then a third person controls, owns, holds directly or indirectly more than 25% of voting shares. Means he is controlling the company through the holding of shares. Okay. So transaction between that controlling person and the company will be considered as transaction between related persons. Then such persons together, a third person controls directly or indirectly both of them. Means there is one third person who controls through another person. Okay. Or such person together controls directly or indirectly a third person. Means that company and that person control another person. So anyhow, so if you assess these all entries, they say that in through whichever means you are controlling the company, so you are in a position to say that the transaction will happen at a zero value without consideration. Okay. So tomorrow if let's say Narayan Murthy enters some transaction with Infosys and Infosys does not charge anything, he controls that company. Let's assume that he holds certain amount of shareholding, which wherein or he has a such certain position there that he can control the manipulate the decisions of the management. Then there will be they will be considered as related persons. So that somebody might take a shelter saying that no, I am controlling this person and this person is holding 90% of your capital. I am not holding, so I am not related. But no, even if indirectly I am controlling the company, still I will be considered as related person. One of them is sole agent, sole distributor, sole commissioner of the other. Means what? So all these three terms are having similar meanings. Means that sole distributor of, let's say, regional distributors are there. So while they enter a contract, we will give you the distributorship for Western Maharashtra, and he says, but you should not give it to anyone else. I will be the sole distributor of this area. So something like that. So that will be again considered as related person. So all these related persons, why we have understood this meaning of related person? What is the relevance? Why are we reading the meaning or understanding related to related persons? Because we should be in a position to assess whether the transaction is covered by that schedule 1, right? Because it says if the transaction is between related persons or distinct persons, then even that is without consideration in the course or furtherance of business will be treated as supply, right? That is the reason we are understanding what are the related persons. Now let us go to distinct persons. So to go to distinct persons, we should understand few things in GST, how those work. Okay. Why are we going to the understanding of distinct persons? Because transaction between distinct persons without consideration will be treated as supply. To understand which are such distinct persons, we are going to the distinct persons. Before we go to the distinct person, we should understand the meaning of the concepts of registration. There is an entire topic on this area wherein we will see who are required to obtain registration, who are not required to obtain registration, who are required to obtain registration only when the threshold limit of the turnover is crossing, and who are required to obtain registration even though the threshold limit is not crossing, etc., etc. But today, to understand distinct person, we will see few things which are related to this registration. Now, my basic question to you is that how many permanent account number, that is PAN, one can have? How many of you have PANs? You have? How many PANs you have? One. Can you have two PAN? Two? How many PAN? If you can you have two PANs? Answer is no. In India, you can only have one permanent account number, right? So today you are in Maharashtra, tomorrow you go to Madhya Pradesh. Does your PAN change? The answer is no. PAN remains the same. There is only one PAN. So in GST, let's say that there is a private limited company and is having one PAN. One PAN means only one PAN one can have. So private limited company is having one PAN, and it is having operations in the state of Maharashtra and another branch in Kerala. So what do you think, how many GST registration numbers does this company should have? Sir, ये तो one nation one tax है, एक ही number चाहिए. But it doesn't happen that way, because there are state GSTs also, and the recovery mechanism should happen properly. They say that obtain one RC for this, and RC means registration certificate, one registration certificate for this state and one registration for Kerala state. So this company, even if it has one PAN, will have two registration certificates or two registration numbers under GST in each state. Okay, so state-wise GST registration numbers are different. Clear? Fit करो ये mind में. State-wise registration numbers are different. Okay. This PQR Private Limited is only operational in Maharashtra. Private limited example I am taking, it is same for individual, HUF, LLP, everything. Private limited, just for example, I have taken private limited. This is operational in Mumbai, Pune, and Kolhapur. Having one factory, having one office, registered office at Mumbai, having one factory at Pune, and having one godown at Kolhapur. How many registration numbers do you think PQR Private Limited can have? Two. Somebody said two. One, three. No. How many? So law says one is sufficient. But अगर PQR को तीन अलग numbers चाहिए, if PQR wishes to have 3 different registration number for each premises, yes, they can apply for that and can have 3 different registration numbers. But law कितना mandate करता है? Only one RC. This will be one RC, wherein principal place of business will be the office or any of the 3. Then this will be having additional place of business 1 and additional place of business 2 in the same registration number, ideally. But PQR says no, we want to, we have cost center and profitability, all 3 managements are different. We want to compare the profitability. Accordingly, we want to do some analysis. We want different registration numbers. So yes, you can apply for 3 different registration number, but law does not mandate so. Here the law mandates separate registration number in each state, but for each state, multiple places of business can be covered under one registration certificate number. Clear? Because this is a very crucial aspect of registration. Have you understood? Have you all understood this? Clear? Now, there may be a situation. Let's discuss that situation as well. There is one ABC LLP. Now I'm taking a different example. LLP having one business in Maharashtra and having one liquor shop at Goa, wherein they are selling अल्कोहलिक लिकर फॉर ह्यूमन कंजम्पशन. सर आप बार बार लिकर का एग्जाम्पल क्यों लेते हो? बिकॉज इट इज नॉट कवर्ड बाय जीएसटी. यू आर ऑल्सो अवेयर. ओके, नो स्पेसिफिक connection with liquor to have again and again the same example, but one place of business in Maharashtra and one liquor shop in Goa. Goa shop only sells liquor. Now Goa will say we will not take registration because registration provisions say that if I am not selling any taxable product, then whatever may be my turnover, I need not take registration. So this is unregistered. We called it URP, unregistered person. And we have one registration number in Maharashtra. Okay. So this can be another example, or this can be another situation which can prevail. Okay. Another situation may be, I'm just giving few permutation and combination to understand the concept, because based on this I'm going to tell you the next most important part, which is related to our entry, schedule 1. Then another partnership firm, XYZ partnership firm. It is operational in Tamil Nadu and it is also operational in West Bengal. As the threshold limit of Tamil Nadu exceeds, Tamil Nadu has taken a registration, but West Bengal turnover is only 1 lakh rupees. Let's say that threshold limit is 20 lakhs, selling goods and services, both. So here there is 25 lakhs, so they obtain registration. But here the turnover is only 1 lakh, so they remain URP. Can this happen? Yes, because the turnover limit needs to be checked at state level. So have you understood all these examples? Now let's come to the distinct person thing. What do we mean by distinct person here is that Maharashtra and Kerala, two branches of the same private limited. So whenever I'm doing transfer of goods from one branch to another at my PAN level company for income tax, is there any revenue? It is just a branch transfer. So one will book purchase, one will book sale. Ultimately it will get nullified in the consolidation. So I will not book anything. I will just show it as branch transfer. So for my income tax purpose, is there any revenue? The answer is no. But for GST, it is treated as transfer between distinct person and hence it is a supply. So from this RC to this RC, there will be a supply. So they will have to issue the tax invoice. They will have to value the goods. They will have to charge tax. Why charge tax? Because the other party who is receiving will be able to claim the input tax credit. So tax, actually it is a tax neutral position if you think from the company perspective. But yes, it is a transaction between distinct person. Distinct person means the establishment, two establishment of the same person, distinct person. Clear? Understood this? Now, here there are two scenarios in the second example. Scenario number 1, only one registration is taken. Only one registration is taken and all the places, other places are additional places of business. There is no supply because only one GST registration number is there. But someone who has taken multiple registration numbers, there will be supply because those are again establishment of a distinct person or a same person. Okay, so got the difference between the second example, two scenarios. First scenario, Mumbai, Pune, Kolhapur having only one registration number, and in that registration number, Pune and Kolhapur are registered as additional places of business. So there cannot be supply. It is just a transfer, means transfer without supply. Supply is not there. It is not covered by the supply definition, also the transaction pertaining to schedule 1. But Mumbai, Pune, Kolhapur having 3 sets of registration numbers. In that case, whatever goods are getting transferred between Mumbai, Pune, Pune, Kolhapur and Mumbai, Kolhapur will be treated as supply even though it is without consideration because it is distinct persons. Clear? Third example, Maharashtra and Goa. It will be still treated as supply because states are different. Clear? And fourth example, XYZ, Tamil Nadu and West Bengal still will be treated as supply because states are different. With this understanding, we will go to the distinct persons and see what is first given here. Under GST law, a supplier is required to obtain state-wise registration. We have seen this. State-wise different registration number. He has to obtain registration in every state or union territory from where he makes taxable supply, provided that his aggregate turnover exceeds specified threshold limit. So this threshold limit we will see when we will go to chapter number 7, but I have just explained you that for goods and services it is 20 lakhs, only for goods 40 lakhs, like that there are certain limits. Even for some states the limit is lesser, some states of northeast, etc., special category states. So that we'll see when we'll go to registration. But if it exceeds the specified limit in that particular state, you will obtain the registration for that particular state. Then thus he is not required to obtain registration from a state or union territory where he makes a non-taxable supply. Liquor का example देखा, गोवा का हमने. Has he taken registration? No, he remained URP because non-taxable. Then since registration is GST is PAN based, one supplier is liable to register. He has to obtain registration in each state or union territories in which he operates. So we have seen states Tamil Nadu, West Bengal separate. Further, he is normally required to obtain single registration in a state UT. However, where he has taken multiple places of business in a state, he has the option to either get a single registration or to get separate registration. So there is an option for him to either get a single registration or get separate registration for each place of business. This much we have discussed. Now quickly, before we end today's lectures, I am just stretching a couple of minutes more. Let's see these examples so that we will see, we'll understand that whether we have understood the concept of related persons and distinct persons. Registered head office at Haryana and registered branch office at Punjab. Distinct persons? Clear? So establishments of a person with separate registration, whether within the same state or in different states, are considered as distinct persons. So it will be covered under transactions related to Schedule 1. Registered restaurant in Karnataka and unregistered liquor shop in Goa. Still covered, different states. So establishment of a distinct persons in two different states. So where a person having one registered establishment in one state and another establishment in different state need not be necessarily registered, these establishments are considered as establishments of distinct person and hence will be covered by the entry number 2 of Schedule 1. Third, I think last example, no, there are two examples. So third, there is one registered factory in Surat, that is Gujarat, and registered showroom in Mumbai, that is Maharashtra. So two different states, both registered, distinct persons or not? Distinct persons. So transaction between different location with separate GST registration of same legal entity will qualify as a supply under GST, these transactions between distinct persons. Clear? Factory in Pune, showroom in Mumbai. Now there are two scenarios which are possible. What are those scenarios? One RC or two RCs. So, however, transfer between two units of a legal entity under single transaction will not be considered as supply. So, if there is a one RC, no supply, but two RC, supply. Don't worry, tomorrow we will repeat all the 4 examples again. Okay, if we have doubts, we will discuss those doubts also. But have you primarily understood what are related persons and what are distinct persons? Why do we need distinct persons meaning and related persons meaning? Because हमको ये जानना है कि अगर transaction कोई है which is without consideration between two persons, if those are distinct persons, तो उसको हम लोग supply में consider करेंगे. अगर वो distinct persons नहीं है तो करना जरूरी नहीं है. For that, we need to understand what is distinct persons, and hence we are referring to section 25 of the registrations, wherein हमको ये समझ में आया कि अगर दो states में दो अलग अलग पर्सन्स रजिस्टर्ड हो, सेम कंपनी के दो ब्रांचेस है या दो यूनिट्स है या दो एस्टेब्लिशमेंट्स है, जो रजिस्टर्ड है या नहीं है, इट विल बी ट्रीटेड एज डिस्टिंक्ट पर्सन्स. उनमें जो ट्रांजैक्शंस है अगर कंसिडरेशन नहीं भी है, स्टिल इट विल बी कंसिडर्ड एज सप्लाई. If those are registered, then to definitely will be supply. Then in the same state, if there are more than one establishment of a single company or a single registered single person, तो दो possibilities है. Possibility number one, having one simple single registration with additional places of business mentioned in that registration only, or separate registration for each unit in the same state. If separate registration है, it will be treated as distinct person and transaction between them even without consideration will be treated as supply. अगर हर एक का रजिस्ट्रेशन नंबर नहीं है, अलग अलग नंबर है, तो इट विल बी supply. Clear? Revise all these 4 example. Tomorrow we will again repeat the example because it was little bit in a hurry. In last 5-10 minutes we covered it. We'll again repeat all the 4 examples and this distinct person concept tomorrow, just to brush up that whatever we have learned today. So clear? Any doubts in this? Okay. So thank you so much. Good day.